Are we ready to start? In that case, let me call to order this workshop, an update on the comprehensive plan, and thank everybody for being here for this early meeting. We'll have our regular meeting following it at 6:30. Let's well, let me invite actually people who have come here this evening to speak to come up and give your comments. It doesn't have to. We're not necessarily taking this in order. So if there's a chapter here or there that you want to skip ahead to, that's perfectly fine. Just say your name and address for the record. Thanks.
Make sure it's on. Yes, on. My name is Janice Cataldo. I live on Sage Drive in Cranston. And I wanted to talk to this planning commission about the Weston Cranston growth. I know there's a need for more housing, especially low income and moderate income homes, but developers have no incentive to build these homes in Weston Cranston. So, and where is Cranston going to get the infrastructure to support these homes? Where is it going to get the money to support the schools, the traffic, the water? And there's flooding already there. And more importantly, it's the negative impact on our budget. So are these capacities going to be included in the plan? There are limits to growth, and the current comp plan identifies that over and over, where it says the Weston Cranston growth is a concern. It brings it up many, many times in the existing plan. And I listened to speakers, I've watched this commission, I've listened to the planning, and I listened to the council. People come forward and they talk about Weston Cranston growth as an issue. Myself and many of my neighbors have fought we fought zoning changes, but I'm concerned about the 3 areas that are in my neighborhood: Peppermill, Caraway, and Sage. There were zone changes put in the plan that we opposed. So we can't stop Weston Cranston development that's already zoned as residential, but we can limit any zone changes to add more homes. The housing section, I think chapter 5, that addresses existing density and upzoning, opens the door to change zoning to match a development, even if there's a negative impact on infrastructure and budget. Lastly, I know this commission has heard the opposition to zone changes. How do we know that our input is going to be included in the final comp plan? Many residents are concerned that our comments may be ignored, even the many dominant comments we've made. I know you tape our public input and feedback, but what assurances do we have that our input is going to be included in the final comp plan? Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. Yes, please come on up.
Just some quick notes. Consistent with what my neighbor Janice said, my name is Susan Bucci. I'm at 67 Sage Drive. And consistent with what Janice said, we've spent over 20 years fighting a proposed zoning change in Alpine Estates. We've been here many times. We've been to the council meetings many times. We've had many neighbors here with facts and figures that persuaded this committee to either make not go forward with a recommendation or a negative recommendation by the council. What are our assurances that our voices are going to be heard? I saw that there is part of the comp plan that talks about the upzoning and making properties consistent with what other properties are. The zoning that is there is A80. They're trying to change it to A20, but also in Alpine, there is A80 as well. And there's many properties in Weston Cranston that are A80 as well. We have one exit, one point of egress, and that's it. So to keep changing these 3 large properties that are in Alpine or but Alpine to A20 with one exit seems like a really reckless thing to do. I'm here to just say, in your wording and your language, please be mindful of the strain of the neighborhoods, the schools, the resources that we have there, the traffic, and when you're making your decision and making your new plan. Thank you very much.
Terrific. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marcia Fowler, 35 Milton Avenue. I was looking through section 10, which is the open space. section. And as I was looking through it, I found some things that I questioned that I just wanted to bring up with you here tonight. I'm wondering if the word private should be taken off of the chart for 10-2. I don't know if you have section 10 in front of you, but 10-2 is recreation facilities with regional and citywide attraction recreation facility. There are quite a few private places on that. And the fact that the public can't use those, I'm wondering if they should be included. I'm very familiar with the Edgewood side only. In Edgewood, there's the Edgewood Yacht Club, the Patuxent Cove Marina, and the Rhode Island Yacht Club. Those are all put on table 10-2, and those are not part of the public. We can't access those. Let's see. Also on 10-4, school department recreation facilities. Mr. Barbera, you might know this, but Cranston High School East, it does say that there are basketball courts there at East. Are there basketball courts at East? Yeah, no. Okay, so that's just something, I think because some of these are brought over from the previous plan, I think it just needs to be refined a little bit. On table 10-5, it's mentioned that there are trails and trail networks, bike trails in Edgewood Park, 2.2 length. And I don't know where Edgewood Park is, and I've lived there for 24 years. Do you know where Edgewood Park is? I didn't think so. Yeah, so I think that that just needs to also be looked at and checked off. Also, table 10-6, waterfront access points. There is Seaview Park. Seaview is mentioned twice. There's Seaview Avenue, west side, which has a public right-of-way, which it does. And then there's also Seaview Park, which is public access location. Those are basically the same, it's the same section. So I don't know if that needs to be listed twice. For Arnold Avenue, there's a fence at the end of Arnold Avenue, and there will not be public access at the end of Arnold Avenue and at the end of Norwood Avenue. And those are listed as city proposed access, and they've been listed like that for quite a while. And again, in the 24 years that I've lived in Edgewood, I don't believe that those are ever going to be open for public access. And then Sheldon Street does not have public access. So those are the areas that I think should be double checked before the comp plan is confirmed. And as we know, the east side is densely populated, and some of the open space that is on the east side is taken care of by quite a few volunteer groups. We have Friends of the Patuxent, Edgewood Waterfront Preservation, Edgewood Garden Club, Patuxent Village Association, the Scout Troops help, and Save the Bay help, along with various individuals who help clean up. And while we desperately need volunteers in these organizations, I feel the city should also be taking a stronger role in what spaces we do have and keeping them safe and clean and accessible to everyone, from toddlers to elderly, from able bodies to those who need assistance. And trash, as we all know, is a big problem in the city. And some of it is from people and not using trash bins, but I think also some of it is from squirrels and animals getting into those open trash bins and taking trash out. I think it would be helpful to look into trash bins that are covered and also recycling bins in our municipal areas. That way at baseball games and softball games, rather than all those water bottles and Gatorade bottles being trashed, we can put them into recycling bins and have that recycled. Also, I think it would be good to add in the plan that no city field can be sold off to private companies. We have so few in the city that we need to continue to keep all of them safe, city-run, and free and open to all residents. Also, according to the most recent Rhode Island Kids Count, childhood obesity in Cranston is roughly 34%. So in the open space area and in with Parks and Rec, it would be great if a focus was also on not just sports, and open space, but also how to tackle childhood obesity and helping our kids be as safe and healthy as possible in our city. I was on the health equity zone, the our built environment zone, or our built environment in the health equity zone. And, we really tried to diversify the group and try to figure out ways to help the entire city from children to adults with these topics. All right, so thank you. Thanks for taking us.
Great. Thank you so much. That's good. Okay. Okay, we have our consultant, Ashley Sweet, on the line.
Hello.
Yes.
So I'm here to again go through the chapters with you as we did last time, take your comments and notes, and hear from you on the chapters that you have not reviewed with us yet. So I'm unfortunately remote this time, and I'm available until 6 o'clock. And I know, Jason can cover any items that you go after 6, and I'll make sure that we get any of the comments provided or notes received, so that we can incorporate those.
Okay, thank you. Let's continue. We've been taking public testimony, public comment. And let me ask Mr. Lima if there are any people at this time online who would like to speak.
Gal name A. Gataro.
Okay, welcome.
Hello, can you
Yep.
hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hi, thank you. We appreciate all of you volunteering your time to carefully review the comprehensive plan based upon feedback from the residents of the city. My name is Annette. I live at 33 Belle Isle Way, which is in the neighborhood of Alpine Estates. And I know many of you know that there have been numerous meetings that many Alpine Estates residents have attended over the years, over the past 6 months, etc. We respectfully request that you remove the 3 parcels that are attached to Alpine that are currently in the comprehensive plan, where they are requesting to change the zoning from A80 to A20. There's many different reasons why we're opposed to this. One of them, again, is the one egress in and out. There's the Orchard Farms Elementary School that the Department of Ed has publicly stated has 1 capacity, but then other people have been saying, no, that's not correct. They can go with another 150 students more, or maybe we consider redistricting. And I think those are comments that are very easy to make if your child's not in one of the impacted schools. So we just ask you to go back, look at the history on these lots, look at the history before it was even put in the comprehensive plan, when it was turned down by our city council. And then because 2 developers requested it, they put them back in, they didn't put them back, they put them in the comprehensive plan, and they never used the words Sage or Caraway. So no one in Alpine Estates would have ever known that those 2 parcels were put in the comprehensive plan. Now that we know they're there, you've heard us over and over and over again. We beg you, just take them out. It would save you guys, everybody, a lot of time. And we just really appreciate it. And we thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Greg Patton.
Yep, please go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. Drake Patton, 684 Natick Avenue. Thanks for doing this work. It's exciting to sort of see us hold on to the comp plan and get to the next one. couple of brief comments tonight. Chapter 7, I am curious, I'm aware because I was called to be part of a survey that PAL did for the department, how that has or has not been incorporated into this revision. I haven't seen that report and I don't see evidence of it in this update, but I would be interested in knowing if it is included, and if so, what elements are there? Because we've been sort of not great on our historic resources goals. We just haven't really done them. And I'm looking forward to the next plan and seeing us successful. Chapter 10, specifically table 10.3, and I want to recognize Marcia's comments, which were great. It seems like this chapter needs a fair amount of work, but I noticed that the Baker Farm, also known as Hurricane Hill, which I own with my husband, at 684 Natick, which is a 48-acre conservation farm for which the city is the local agent, is not listed. And that seems like an oversight that we should probably fix. And then I appreciated the conversation at the last meeting regarding chapter 9 and the energy section. And I didn't see any updates, and I don't know if that's because the updates are just going to wait till everything's been discussed, but I want to make sure that we're not misrepresenting the Natick solar project in this revised version. So thank you so much again for the work you're doing, and I appreciate the time to speak.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Patton. Mr. Lima, anyone else online at this point?
I'm seeing no new public comment.
Okay. And I'll come back and check before we close the hearing in case some people join us a little bit late. Okay, well, let me just open this up to members of the commission. Do you think we need to take every chapter individually, or would you rather just focus on those areas that we have the most changes for? Either way is fine. Commissioner Frias.
I would suggest we just go by the chapters
Okay.
because that is an organized way of doing it. Last time, I think it went okay. And I think the first chapter that we have to look at that we didn't look at last time was chapter 7, historic and cultural preservation.
Okay, good.
This revision was from July 9th. Is this the one that we're working off of right now?
That could be the one that I received. That was a Word version recently.
All right, because we haven't done too many edits on this. Are you looking, which version are you looking for? The one-
I was just gonna say, I don't have any changes. I did not submit any edits to chapter 7.
Okay.
Maybe the other commissioners have edits or changes to chapter 7 they want to discuss.
Are there any additions, comments on chapter 7?
You know, there are small edits that you can see. This is the one that was posted, I believe. I'm gonna see if there's another version of this. I'm pretty sure there might be a clean version of this. All right, so do we think, does anybody have issue with the historic element? We were able to update this element. We had gotten a grant from Rhode Island Historic about a year and a half ago, and they updated the historic resources section in advance of this update. So this has been pretty up to date. So
Yeah, the sources of, I saw the footnotes there. They've been vetted.
this was a newer version. Jonas, who's been very good at keeping these straight, has COVID. So I'm gonna do my best to make sure I'm getting this is a cleaner version of that. This one should have had all of the changes accepted. And this is the one that's on the website, I believe. All right, so this is the clean one. The one I brought up was a few weeks ago. Okay.
Okay,
Oh, boy.
Commissioner Frias, we didn't look at land use. Yeah, I don't have the minutes in front of me.
That's fine. We did, the next one would be chapter 8, service and facilities would be the
Chapter
next
8.
chapter.
Okay, thank you.
Let me bring that one up.
Mr. Chairman, I have to,
Yeah, I just gotta step out for a minute for a separate meeting, but I will be returning shortly after.
I understand. Thank you.
And
Commissioner Fryas.
Yeah, I just had a few changes here. I would assume that the Public Works Director may have more substantive changes. Go to page 8.2. This is a minor change. As you see up there, it says a variety of boards and commissions that meet regularly. The Charter Review Commission does not meet regularly. I'm the chairman of that. I was the chairman. It hasn't met in a few years. It's only every 10 years. Whether we keep it in or keep it out, I don't care too much, but I just want to point that out that it's not a regularly meeting. It's a special commission that meets every 10 years. Next is page 8.5, 8-5. Go to the Budlong swimming pool section. All right, so this language here is interesting to me. What I suggested here, let's see, you've changed the language a little bit since the version I saw. All right, I just want to focus on the fact that, hold on one second. Where it says the officials have proposed, officials have developed, okay? That's what's happening right now. The city administration has developed a plan and they're implementing it. It's not a proposal that somebody has to approve. So to me, the appropriate term is they've developed. And instead of the proposed redesign, you know, the new redesign. Again, whatever you want to say here, but to me, it's a more accurate term is that it's not something that's being proposed and considered. It's actually something being implemented. So those are my two changes on that. I think you've may have added a few things, but I'm not really sure about the rest. Page 819. Okay, so again, the Budlong pool, this is basically for like, I call it like factual accuracy. I thought about deleting the first sentence, ongoing debate about the size and pool remains a significant challenge. There is a debate, but again, this has already been decided by the administration. And then you refer to the closure of the pool. This is in the renovation. The renovation of the pool has been a contentious issue. And you talk about emphasizing the need for the resolution that balances community desires and financial feasibility. Again, this has already been decided by the administration. They've gone out to bid, and this is the project. And the last sentence I would have added is, which is true, the Budlong pool renovation is expected to be completed by May 15th, 2025 at a cost of approximately $4.6 million. So to me, just making it clear that there's a renovation going on, it's been decided, and that it's going to be completed in 2025 at a cost of approximately 4.6. So it's just tenses and the fact.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remove the whole discussion about the pool from the challenges section because as Commissioner Fry says, it's done. It's under construction. So there's no more debate. It's finalized. So, you know, been working on this plan for the better part of a year. So this is, you know, remnant language from probably when we started this a while ago. So I would just recommend just removing the whole thing. It's not a challenge or an opportunity. It's a resource now.
Yeah, I think that.
I'm indifferent as long as you just put the fact that it's been going out the bid.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I think that's an important
Yeah.
observation. Yeah.
Oops. Do that. I'm gonna make a note to rework this as more definitive and it'll be finalized in 2025. Report.
my next changes are in 8-20. Okay, Western Cranston Sewer and Water Policy, is that, can you move up a little bit? Where is that thing? Did that disappear? 18-20, keep going down, I'm sorry, I'm not finding it. School system, Western Cranston. Can you go further down? Maybe it's on the next page. Okay, go back up. Is it under the pool? Oh, I'm okay. These pages change, people. It's not that I can't see. I'm sorry. Here, I just want to understand, it says the proposed establishment of a septic system management district. I have to go look at a 2010 plan. Did we talk about a proposed establishment or we talked about the possibility of the establishment? Slight difference to me, but it's still a difference. I added some more language here that was reflected in our old comp plan in our goals. And I'll just read it out loud. In addition, sewer extensions to areas where development can be adequately served by on-site wastewater treatment should be discouraged. That expansion of municipal water services into Western Cranston should be allowed where appropriate. However, the provision of water services to new areas should not be a rationale for increased density. The use of septic and well systems in low-density zoning should continue to be used to protect surface and groundwaters and public health in Western Cranston where utilities do not exist. That is a goal currently in our plan. I got that language from our goals in our 2010 plan. I don't recall any of us deleting those goals. So I'd like that language there, or at least put in the chapter 3 implementation and goals. And the key sentence for me, the provision of water services to new areas should not be a rationale for increased density, for example, and also about sewer expansion. So this is all comes from the goals that were in the 2010 plan about Western Cranston. It's consistent with the public comment we have received about services and facilities in Western Cranston. So I'd like to see that in. I'll consider it either in this section or in the goals section of chapter 3, but either case, at the next meeting, I'll be making an amendment to something to that effect.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to give some context. That goal is, it's a holdover from the 92 plan. It was included in the 2012 plan. However, since that time, all of Western Cranston is included in the Western Cranston Water District. And this was a big point of contention about the expansion of utilities. All of Cranston is potentially served by Providence Water at this point. So there isn't the issue of not expanding utilities such as water is really not the issue it was 15 years ago. So, it's an old topic.
I would say that when you talk about utilities, you're obviously talking about sewer as well. And that's also relevant still in Western Cranston. When I've knocked on people's doors in Western Cranston, they talk about sewer service. So I don't see, we can talk about the language a little bit here, but the bottom line is there are limitations to services in Western Cranston. That goal in some form or another should be retained. And as I said in a prior meeting, I'm actually a reasonable person. And I don't need language that's exactly what I wrote. But the concept, if it's in the 2010 plan, and I haven't changed it, then, and I'm hearing public comment that says I'm concerned about it, then I think it's something that is relevant to this day. Thank you. The last thing is on the bottom of A20. I think it's on A20.
What section?
School system challenges. Okay, right there. Schools with high student enrollment require substantial resources for staff and facility maintenance extracurricular programs. I just added require substantial increases in the cost of providing resources. Small change, but it's important to note there is a cost. That's all I'm adding here. Make it clear there's a cost. And that is what I have for chapter 8. And for the public record, I submitted edits to the commission staff consistent with my public comments over the last few days. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Frias, why don't we can just actually
Just keep going.
continue, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
All right. I just want to say something about chapter 9, energy. The draft that I'm seeing up on the website doesn't seem to reflect many of the changes that I have. Now, I spoke to the director today and he told me that there are multiple drafts floating around. So the final draft may reflect more of the changes I suggested. But I just want to be clear, if the draft that we are presented with on August 21st, by August 21st for a vote, does not have many of the changes, I'll be making an amendment at that time. Chapter 10 is open space and recreation. That's the next one that we have not discussed. Unless, I think the Commissioner Lampier is raising her hand to talk to you.
Sorry, I need to look this
Thank you,
in this
Mr.
direction.
Chairman.
Commissioner Lanfear.
Just getting back to the energy section, my understanding also is that the consultant is working on the recommendations that the commissioners made with regard to that. Is that accurate?
Yes. So we had the final version that we vetted with staff. They've been out to you folks. Got more additional comments. Staff reviewed those comments as well as with vetting those with the consultant. We incorporated most of those comments. Some we did not. So let me find the latest and greatest of the energy element. Is that what we want to talk about right now?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to, there were, I know Commissioner Frias had made several edits that we haven't had the opportunity to see them. I forwarded to you a couple of suggested edits, and also one that I didn't, but as I read through, I had another edit that I just want to be sure is being addressed with respect to the description at page 9.
Are we on the energy element? Is that what we're talking about right now?
Excuse me?
Are we still on the energy element?
Yes,
All right, let me find the.
page 9-4.
Hold on, let me find the last version of that. Okay, which 9.4?
Page 9-4,
see.
under Natick Avenue Solar
If
Farm.
this could be an earlier version, again, I wish Jonas was here, but he is sick, so I'm doing my best to try to find the latest and greatest.
I think up a bit. I don't know if underway is a change to the language under Natick Avenue Solar Farm, and I did not raise this last time, but that paragraph is not correct.
I agree.
It was never put on hold due to a Rhode Island Supreme Court decision. And as you said, this was written a while ago, and since then, it came back to the commission and it was rejected and was appealed. So we could amend that if you wanted to keep it in there to say a planned 30-acre solar project was denied by the Planning Commission in 2023. That decision is under appeal to the Rhode Island Supreme Court.
Yeah, I believe that when we looked at this last, this is not the latest one, deleted the whole thing. It
Yeah.
just, you know,
That's
this
what I-
type of history is not, or ongoing, is not good for the plan. It doesn't really do
Okay.
much. So I believe we struck that completely from this plan. Wish I could find that latest one. Okay, yes, so yeah, let me just make sure, energy element. At 9.5, 9.4. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, what was the next comment? Well, I'm trying to find it.
The only other one, and I did mention this last time, was there was a land use goal that we kept on page 9-4 that talked about temporarily removing the development potential of the land located in Western Cranston land banking.
That's all stricken.
That's stricken
All
as
that,
well.
with all that's gone. We don't need to bring that
Thank
back.
you. Those are my comments on that section. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
The next section is open space, chapter 10.
This looks like the latest.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, could you go to 10-10? Okay, here's, this is something I got to work outside of my head and probably talk to the director a little bit more. The phrase access and equity, I changed that to improving access. Okay. Now, why did I do that? Because the word equity to me has, people throw that word around and I'm not really sure what it means sometimes. Okay? Equity, as I understand it from like law world, is like equitable remedies. So it's usually about fairness. Okay? So when it's like providing equitable access, to me, it's just like providing more access. It's a simpler term of providing more access to open space. Equitable implies that something is unfair and there's almost like a moral connotation to it. Now, the director explained to me that in the planning world, the word equity is used often and it's a key concept. And so I recognize that this is not solely, as I've said before, my comp plan, and this is a community's comp plan. But I want to think about when we use terms like equity and equitable, what exactly are we meaning here? Because it means a lot of things to different people. And I like being more precise with my words about improving access is the same thing as is to a large extent very similar to providing fair access or fairness. So that's a concern of mine as generally. And I know the commissioner, the director said to me, sometimes people use equity as a slur word. I've never used the word equity in my entire life as a slur word. I do a lot of public comments. People see me in the newspaper or on TV or something, and I've never used equity as some sort of negative word. I just do not feel comfortable using words that have broad meaning when a other word can be used that has a more specific meaning. The next thing is in the paragraph preservation and development. If you notice there, it says, the tension between land preservation and that highlights the need for a balanced approach to land use plan that protects valuable open space and farmland while accommodating necessary growth and renewable energy initiatives. I struck out the word "and renewable energy initiatives." The reason I struck that out is that basically we have already decided in this city that we do not want to cut down our forests. We do not want to destroy our open space. We don't want to turn Western Cranston into a large-scale solar farm field. So I don't feel the need to include that language. Next one's on 1011. And keep going. Sustainable development. Okay. I changed this to basically promoting open space. And I phrase it as, while recognizing development needs, continuing to promote open space preservation, particularly in Western Cranston by implementing conservation subdivisions. The reason I removed the phrase sustainable development, and again, I'll be glad to talk to the director about this offline, is I want to understand what exactly, again, this is a broad term. I want to know what exactly that means, what exactly I'm agreeing to. I agree with promoting open space. I'm a strong believer in promoting open space, whether it's the east or the west, okay? But what am I agreeing to when I say sustainable development? That's my only concern about that. Other than that, these are like minor wording issues. I didn't change goals. I didn't change anything else. So that was my 2 cents on open space.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Next chapter.
If none of my fellow commissioners have comments on it, the next one would be chapter 11.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Barberry. My apologies.
I think just to reiterate what Mrs. Fowler was speaking to regarding the fields in 10-4, there is no basketball court at Cranston East. That was until they built the gym there. So when they built the gym, they covered the basketball court. Also at Cranston West, they do have next to the baseball field, there was something that looks like a softball field. I think we kind of know it as where kids go sledding down. So there's also a field right there too. It's somewhat like we look at it as like a softball field. The gym classes go out there. It's a sledding place, but it is some sort of field that's also over there. I also would like to kind of reiterate what Ms. Fowler brought up as far as access points down in Patuxent Village. It looks like when you, especially when you go there, you find the fact that people begin to take these points over as their own land. And I just want to make sure that this is covered here underneath the comprehensive plan that we have. I guess Edgewood Park is just one of the things that I actually had to relook at because I know it's near the elementary school there, but I think that was also a point that we should just take another look at there too.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else on chapter 10? Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, please come on up and absolutely.
And it's Marcia Fowler, 35 Milton Ave. On one of the charts, it said that Edgewood Highland has a top park, and that should just be under schools. It shouldn't be as a public park. Oh, it's under table 10-2, recreational facilities. Edgewood Highland Elementary top park really doesn't belong in that section because no other school's top park is mentioned. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay. Good. Okay, next.
Chapter 11, transportation. Is the next one on the stop. Okay, I got some more significant edits here. And before I get into them, I just want to preface something very quickly. I'm somebody who does use public transportation rather regularly. I used to do it all the time. When I commuted to Boston, I took the rail and I ripped the bus from close to my house, and I'd walk there in the morning. And actually, one reason why I moved to the Garden Hills neighborhood was because it had access to RIPTA transportation. Because I don't want to park in Providence and pay that kind of money. So mostly, one last thing is, for most of my life, I actually never drove a car. I grew up in a household that didn't have a car. So public transportation is an important thing to have. It's a needed thing, and we should provide that option. So I just want people to understand that. And lastly, before I get into the meat and potatoes, the goals that the staff has put together generally look okay to me. My problem with this, as you will soon learn, is some of the language used to almost justify these goals, which is the problem for me. So first, let's go to 11-1. So it starts out with under existing conditions, third paragraph. All right. Oh, okay. Some of those changes I've asked for has been included here, which is the emergence of the trolley, the changes to that. Okay, we're going to skip over this paragraph because I think you've added that. Next one is automobile centricity and its implications. I just use the word automobile and its implications. Okay. And I add a sentence here so that people can be clear. That is that the automobile gives individuals flexibility, freedom, and autonomy in their daily lives. The two most important inventions of the second industrial revolution was the electric light bulb and the internal combustion engine. And they changed our lives. So I like to start out by saying the car has some positives. Now there are some negatives, and that's the rest of it, okay? So as you see here, I also put in improved public transit and alternative transportations. Okay. All right, I see this. Okay, next one is economic prospects, because there's some changes here. Congestion occurs at certain locations. At certain locations, and okay. See, I'm sorry I'm doing this, is it's that he's incorporated some of my changes. Okay. We can go to 11-2 because I think that staff has incorporated some of my changes. Okay. Oh, eastern and western part. Okay, demographic profiles. So after it says the phrase demographic profiles of east and west, I say the eastern and western parts of Cranston are divided approximately by the Pocasset River. Why did I say that? Because eastern Cranston, basically east of the Pocasset River, is where people go to Cranston East. West of the Pocasset River, which is Garden City, my neighborhood, Garden Hills, all those areas, they go to Cranston West. And most people, when they talk about east and west, they talk about that dividing line, more or less. So that's just so people can understand what is east and what is west. I know no one in my neighborhood refers to themselves as living in eastern Cranston, okay? So I like to use terms that people actually use. Okay. Then we get to demographic diversity. for Eastern Cranston. This part of Cranston features a mix of incomes and diverse demographic backgrounds, rich cultural fabric, higher density, blah, blah, blah. Sounds accurate to me. But then you go down to Western Cranston, look at homogenic demographic profile. There's no reference to us having a rich cultured fabric. Western Cranston actually has a pretty rich cultured fabric. The Greek festival, St. Mary's Feast, and it's omitted. So my preference is, this is a transportation section. Can we just focus on transportation instead of talking about people's cultural richness and making subjective judgments as to who's got a rich culture and who doesn't have a rich culture? So then we get to homogeneous demographic profile. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your seats as we have a history lesson. That'll take about 2 minutes. This homogeneity can be traced back to historical patterns of suburban development and zoning regulations. In the mid-20th century, post-World War II suburbanization led to the creation of residential zones with larger lot sizes appealing to predominantly middle and upper income families seeking quieter suburban lifestyle. Okay, let's talk about Cranston's suburbanization. First of all, Cranston was already becoming suburbanized in the late 19th century, early 20th century due to the trolleys, a lot of it in the east. After World War II, you had Garden City, which was a mix of commercial and I call it commercial and residential. Garden Hills, which is late 1950s and 60s. Glen Woods, 1950s and 60s, and Dean Estates, 1930s to the 1950s. Cranston did not have single-family zoning until 1966. This was all back then, 2 houses, you could have 2 living units in a lot. It was called dwelling districts. You can look at it back in January 1924. So there was no zoning that like limited, you only have a single family back then. Number one. Number two, why did this happen? Why did people pick single family homes and they developed this area? Because that's what people wanted. It wasn't the government mandating anything. You look at this, what was coming out of Providence and Pawtucket in the 1940s and 50s. These were families that had been immigrant backgrounds, working backgrounds, Irish, Italian, Jews, Armenians, Greeks, and they were coming out of Providence looking to buy a house in the suburbs. They didn't want a 2 or 3 family house in the suburbs because they could have that in Providence. You can just read the newspaper articles. So, and then this gets into the next section, which is the reliance on the automobile and all this other stuff. These neighborhoods I just discussed were serviced by United Transit, the forerunner of RIPTA. This was a privately owned bus company, and they used to have service going down Oakland Ave and Reservoir Ave. So what happened? People didn't want to ride the bus anymore because they could get a car. It wasn't some government plan. And what I read is that ridership went down and fares started going up. One of the reasons fares were going up was less ridership, of course, but also union demands. And until the 1960s, it was privately owned. After 1966, approximately, it became owned by the government called RIPTA. And then in the 1970s, it became subsidized by gas taxes. So car users were actually subsidizing the public transportation system from the 70s onward. It wasn't that we were taking money away from public transportation to build roads in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And that's some of this underlying rhetoric here. So I preferred to take out all this current zoning laws, the low density, single family, because there was no single family zoning in this area in the 40s, 50s, and into the early 60s when all these plats were developed. And some of that language has been taken out, but I'd like to take out the whole demographic section because it's unneeded here. And if demographic homogeneous, what demographic are we talking about? Age, income, religion, ethnicity, Irish, Italian. There's a whole bunch of mixed people if you look at their backgrounds in the 50s and 60s. So I don't think this is necessary, and I don't think it's completely accurate. Okay, next one is 11-3. Please go to Western Cranston. Okay. Okay, I took out economic issues. See how it says economic barriers? I put in transportation barriers. Why? Because most people who don't own a car maybe have an economic reason, but some people don't own a car or don't use a car because they don't want the expense or they don't want to deal with it. So I prefer to use transportation. And by the way, in Western Cranston, there are a whole bunch of people who are elderly, they're on fixed incomes, they're living in the homes that they became empty nesters in. They're not necessarily rich people. Okay, I think I've completed the demographic discussion. Now we can get it a little bit more simpler. 11-4, please. Please go under car, truck, or van. Just a little bit, go down a little bit further, please. Okay, you put vast majority. Thank you. Could you go to 11-10? I just wanted to see if you made an edit. Under educational institutions. Okay. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, go to 11-22. Go back up a little bit. To high car ownership. Again, I just want to add the sentence, automobiles gives individuals flexibility, freedom, and autonomy in their daily lives. However, blah, 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 blah. I just want to point out the car is a positive for many people. Next, we go to 11-23. Please go to promotion of multimodal, blah, blah, transportation. Okay. In our comp plan, we prefer promotion of a balanced transportation, okay, or balanced multimodal transportation, but the word is balance. And I like to see the word balance in there. And also the purpose that we are promoting this, and I have this in here, and this is, in general, the city will continue to endeavor to reduce congestion. This comes from our comp plan goals, I believe. And to encourage commuters to shift. This whole line, about 54% who are commuting times between 15 and 19 minutes away from their car dependent. Look, I know people who have jobs that are 15 to 19 minutes away, like my wife. She works in Warwick. She's not going to give up her car to take a bus to go to Warwick when you have 3 kids, after school activities, and everything else. So why don't we be realistic instead of this kind of stuff here? All right, this sets unrealistic expectations. And so in general, I added stuff like, you know, we will encourage people to shift, commuters to shift away from the car and investments in bike networks and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to put a goal of particularly 54%. So you encourage the shift, but you don't put that kind of language in there. So I had some other stuff about off-street parking here, but it's in the goals of the comp plan that it's in chapter 3. And that's what I had for chapter 11. I'm sorry for the time I took to talk about this. Like I said, I use public transportation. done so all my life. And I agree with many of the goals, or generally with the goals in the comp plan in chapter 3. The rhetoric and the language, I don't agree with, and it's not accurate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just a quick question, going back to the 54%, is that a figure that has been updated, or is that something we've carried forward from a previous plan?
That's an updated figure.
Commissioner Lanfear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just with respect to the designation of Eastern Cranston and Western Cranston, I've always been surprised when I learn where the line of demarcation is, because I agree with Commissioner Frias. A lot of people that live in what is designated as Eastern Cranston would not consider themselves to be in Eastern Cranston. So what I was going to ask, just as a general concept, and I'm not sure where you would want to put it, but we talk about Eastern Cranston and Western Cranston in a number of chapters. If perhaps you can define that, as Commissioner Frias made an attempt at doing. I don't know if what he suggested is consistent with what we have always used, but I think that would be helpful. And I would also go so far as to say, and I don't know if this is something we would endeavor to do, that perhaps there should be an Eastern Cranston, Central Cranston, and Western Cranston, because I think those neighborhoods are very different than just lumping together East and West.
The conversation about east, west, central, north, we had these in 2010, 2008. And one thing that we've never demarcated east and west is by the Pecasset. Never. It's an idea. There's definitely different land uses on either side of that river. But it's never been used as part of that plan. At best, we've always kind of agreed that it's a parochial term, east-west generally. But there's never been a hard line. Sometimes we've used 295, west to 295, east to 295, but that's not a great divider either. How about we add Oak Lawn Avenue into there? Is that a good divider between east-west? Is the street the middle line? So there's been different discussions about this over time. If anyone says that there's a hard and fast line, I don't believe them, because I've been here a long time and we've had this exact discussion with your predecessors, and it's parochial. So if we want to discuss a hard line between what's east, north, south, let's do that in phase 2. I think that's a fun thing we can do, and we can get out the maps and have some fun with that, but it really serves not a lot of purpose right now.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. I'm not trying to create more work for anyone, but what I am trying to do is to have a definition to the extent that we can, so that not only does the commission understand what's being said when we use sentences in the comp plan that say Eastern Cranston, Western Cranston, but so all the citizens of Cranston can understand what we're talking about as well. So maybe it's not a specific bright line that we draw on a map, but my reason for saying it is not to agree with however it's been used or with what was proposed by Commissioner Frias, but just to say we need a definition so that we all understand what we're talking about. Otherwise, each of us has a subjective opinion about what that language means when it says.
And you're right, it is. There's never been a hard, bright line drawn. And honestly, I don't think east and west is suitable. If we're going to draw lines, I think that there's south and there's north and there's central and there's an east and there's a west. So I think that would be a deeper dive and we maybe can get more detailed, but just to say a hard line for east-west, it's complicated.
I'm not sure this is gonna help, but it seems to me one of those things that I can't define, but I know it when I see it.
I always talk west of 295 as far western Cranston myself.
But if you're east of west,
Let me just ask Commissioner Barberi, I suppose the school district lines are no help in this regard, whether you're using the middle school or the high school. If you're looking at middle schools, one would assume that if you go to Bain, you're in the central part of Cranston and so forth. But let me ask you.
So I'm going to agree with the commissioners, previously, Commissioner Frias, in deleting some of these sections out, to be honest with you. The east and west, my suggestion is that why don't we just call what neighborhoods are by their name instead of using east and west? And that, I'm sure, Jason, this is for a later discussion, but you got Auburn, you have Patuxent, you have the friendly community, you have different communities right in Cranston. So why can't we just, instead of saying east and west, just call them by the community name within Cranston? This way, they're defined better that way. And as far as to answer your question about the school lines, that could change based on population growth, and we've seen housing growth in different areas, and that could shift sometimes, that line. So there's never going to be a magical line as far as that's concerned. It's always going to fluctuate. So I think we should just stick with using, instead of east and west, just use neighborhoods.
and we certainly have neighborhood maps, and I'm not sure everybody knows those boundaries, but we could certainly use them. Most of them don't change all that much, so yeah, interesting idea. Again, I think in phase two, we get deeper into this concept about how we, talk about localization.
Okay, next. Commissioner
Chapter
Frias.
13, the last one on land use. The other chapter is chapter 3, implementation of goals, but we won't have time before 6:30.
Let me try to find this latest and greatest. All right, that looks to be it.
Believe it or not, I have very few changes here. Go to existing conditions, 13.2, second paragraph. I'm sorry, 13-1. It's on page 13-1. Okay. This phrase, Cranston blends the suburban feel of a small town with the accessibility demands of a large city. I don't consider Cranston to be a large city myself. I rephrased it as follows. Although it has the demands of a city, much of Cranston retains the suburban character of a small town. Why did I use the word much? Because if you look at the map, you basically see the whole thing west of 295 is certainly a suburban area. And then the area between 295 and I said the Pocasset River, for the most part, like the area I live in and other areas are suburban type. So we can get rid of the word small town if people want. But I would say, although it has the demands of a city, much of Cranston retains a suburban character, okay? Then please go to, again, this is all like just language. Okay, please go to right above current measures, 13.4. Just go up. A little bit higher. Thanks. Oh yeah, a little bit higher now. I can see where it is. Okay, Eastern Cranston is built out but can undertake infill. I do want to have a discussion at some point about this word infill and what exactly this means. But the next sentence is Western Cranston has room for new development but faces own constraints due to open space restrictions and zoning district restrictions. I would delete the phrase zoning district restrictions because the entire city is subject to zoning district restrictions. Again, why is Western Cranston being treated slightly different than everybody else? And due to open space restrictions, I would add, and the goals of maintaining its rural character and preserving scenic landscapes. That's the actual constraints out there. I could add actually facilities as well, but it's people want a rural part of our city. What makes our city so unique is that you have a rural area, suburban area, and urban area, providing different lifestyle choices for everybody. I'm going to skip over this because I think you already have it in the goals, Director. 13.5-1, the first paragraph. Okay, so here it says Cranston faces unique challenges due to its designation as a city and maintains a sense of suburban rural character. I would put Cranston is unique. It has a mixture of urban, suburban, and rural characteristics. It provides a variety of lifestyle choices for its residents. We can say something positive about our city. And then streetscape limitations. That is on 13-9. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Let's see what that phrase is that I didn't care for. Oh, yes. The reliance of Cranston on automobile infrastructure has led to car-oriented design, making neighborhoods less accessible and safe. I don't think cars are not safe. Okay? So I don't like the phrase safe. I'm not even sure about the phrase less accessible, but I can understand the argument. But that's basically, I would get rid of the word safe because you're implying that having cars is something unsafe for our community when they're not.
The phrasing there is talking about for pedestrians. That's the thrust of what we're talking there. It's not being in the car makes you safe, is that it's the car-oriented design makes the neighborhoods less safe for pedestrians.
Okay, so we say less accessible and safe for pedestrians.
Yeah. I'm gonna add
Is that we okay with that? Because the car is not, I'm not Ralph Nader. I don't think things are dangerous like cars. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Lanfear.
I would agree if we went up back to the infill language. I know that's going to be a further discussion because there's that language in varying places. But if we were to add there where it says Eastern Cranston is built out, but may, where appropriate, undertake infill, I would prefer that language. I also made a change, which I have it in writing for you, Director, and I can give it to you, but on 13.5.1 challenges and opportunities, Cranston faces unique challenges due to its designation as a city. I added, and its proximity to Providence's more urban character. Challenges to maintain Cranston's suburban qualities and character, especially in the more heavily developed eastern portion of the city, must be met to support existing neighborhoods and preserve quality of life. The retention of Western Cranston's rural and agricultural character is equally important, and then left the rest of as discussed. I think that may have changed since the last version I had, but I can send that language down to you. I think it's consistent with what Commissioner Frias said, so perhaps in reviewing both our comments, you can have some combination of that language.
Is this new? Did you send this to us? Okay. All right. So when we talk about infill, like is there a need to define the term infill? Like in this plan, because if we're confused about it, we can just state what infill is.
That would, at least for my purposes, assist me in understanding what am I agreeing with what infill means.
Right.
If infill means that I'm keeping the density of the neighborhood about the same, then that's not as big of a problem for me. But if it means, oh, there's a little green space on this, and I want to shove a house here and it's going to increase the overall density of the neighborhood, then I have more of a concern, Director, as you understand my general
Right.
view.
And this is, this is probably the issue. We've been talking a lot about this plan, but this density issue, the consistency with the existing neighborhoods, these are the issues that we deal with month in and month out. We're not dealing with climate change. We're not dealing with trolleys from the 60s. We're dealing with new development, filling in neighborhoods. And we're dealing with zones that don't meet existing neighborhoods. So this has been like our big, pinch point with this commission. So, we've fallen short of really diving too deep into, re-examining this, because this is just supposed to be an update of the existing plan and not create any new policy. So we can definitely define a little bit more clear about infill. Infill essentially pre-existing lots that were platted, could have been 100 years ago, and they more or less meet the existing density of the neighborhood. However, we could have redevelopments that we've seen. We've done special zones, and that runs afoul of that goal to keep the existing density, because as we know, some of these larger projects do not meet the existing density of the surrounding neighborhoods. They're different. They're situated differently. So we can talk about infill, and then we can talk about special projects. But those are, we don't want to create new definitions that then start causing us to fight amongst ourselves about, well, we can't do new development. We can't do high density for affordable housing because, we run headlong into this density question again. So, yeah, we can give this some more thought, but, the infill question is also something that's really important because it's at odds with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is linked to the zoning. We've established that the zoning is inconsistent with 90% of the lots in Eastern Cranston. So, just saying the future land use map prescribes a high level of density, when you actually look at the general consistency of a neighborhood, you run headlong into that to say, well, the existing density might be well above what the comprehensive plan calls for. So, you know, this is that issue where, you know, we're trying to grapple with.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner.
a couple of quick things. One is so that the director understands and my fellow commissioners. I've never argued that density should never be that we should not go above the density if it's an affordable housing component to the development. I have voted for about 95% of the affordable housing projects in this city, and they went above the density of the area. So if there's an affordable housing state law component to it, I don't have as much of a problem about it, okay? Second, because I know it's 6:32, there was one other thing on land use, and I'll just mention it quick because some people are here who may care. In our comprehensive plan of 2010, there was 3 lots in the Alpine area that were said, it's suggested on page 46 to be from A80 to A20. I just want to let my fellow commissioners know, and I'm going to talk to the solicitor about it. I'm contemplating making an amendment into the plan to make it clear that they should be switched back to A80. I have to think about this because there is a pending lawsuit for one of those parcels. And I have to also consider the city council has to review it as well. And I don't want to make it more complicated, but I know this has been an issue for years, and the city council has opposed these changes until recently because of the lawsuit. So at the appropriate time before the next meeting, I will talk to the solicitor to see if it's appropriate to do this. And I just want to let the public know, but I don't want to run afoul of the law and whether or not that one change causes this whole thing to become a mess. That's the other thing too. So, but that's just something that's been going on for a long time. And so I just want to let the solicitor know, and I'll talk to them. So I just want to let my commissioners know about that one issue. It'd be a sentence, just like it is in the current plan.
Chairman,
Commissioner Lampier.
I know we're short on time, but I just wanted to respond on the infill issue. I agree, we're not going to resolve that particular issue through this, which is why I didn't suggest deleting that language, but just qualifying it to say where appropriate. And I think that takes into account other situations such as affordable housing and other circumstances where sometimes we may say yes and sometimes we may say no. But what it does is not to mandate infill, but to say that we may undertake that where appropriate.
Right. I agree. That would be something we can work with. Mr. Chairman, I know we got to start our next meeting. The meeting for the 21st, we were not able to secure that room there. The canvassers are using that room for the 21st. So we need to push the hearing date back 1 week to the 29th, if that works with the commission.
What's the date again?
Thursday, August 29th, if that's agreeable for the commission to hold our public hearing on this.
Don't we have a public hearing already in the newspaper, Director?
It's got to be canceled. It's got to be
Okay.
canceled. The 21st will not work. So that's why I'm saying
Okay.
that now.
Oh,
So the
okay.
21st is going to be canceled. And to push this meeting, and I did triple check with the clerks that the 29th is ours if we want to do our
Well,
hearing on that date.
Okay, well, I didn't go with vacation with my family today because of this comp plan thing, so I'll figure it out on the 29th as well if I have to.
So, and we can reconvene after our regular meeting and we can discuss this some more, so.
Okay.
We'll adjourn this workshop and then we can reconvene the regular meeting, the 6:30 meeting. No, because it's an item in the regular meeting. This workshop is so.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the workshop. Moved by Commissioner Coop, seconded by Commissioner Barberi. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And does anyone need a quick break before we